was supposed to be just another unforgettable night for Tupac Shakur. The 25-year-old rapper had just watched Mike Tyson fight at the MGM Grand. He was surrounded by his crew, riding through the city with death row record boss Marion Suge Knight. Tupac was at the height of his fame, but before the night was over, he would be fighting for his life. A car pulled alongside a BMW carrying Tupac and Knight. Then came the shooting. Tupac was critically wounded. Knight survived. The rapper was rushed to the hospital, and suddenly, one of the biggest stars in the world was fighting for his life. 6 days later, Tupac Shakur was dead. He was only 25. Now, to understand why Tupac's death became one of the biggest mysteries in the music history, you will have to go back to the very beginning. Born Lezana Parish Crooks in 1971, he would grow up to become Tupac Amaru Shakur, better known simply as Tupac. He wasn't just a rapper, he was a poet, an actor, a storyteller, and for millions of young people, a voice speaking about poverty, inequality, violence, love, and survival. His career exploded in the early 1990s, but the bigger Tupac became, the more complicated his life became. By the middle of 1990s, American hip-hop was caught up in a bitter rivalry. On one side was the West Coast, and the other side was the East Coast. At the center of the conflict were two of the biggest names in rap, Tupac Shakur and the notorious B.I.G. Tupac had become closely associated with Death Row Records and its powerful boss, Suge Knight. The rivalry wasn't simply about music anymore. Personal accusations, street conflicts, public confrontation had turned the tension into something far more serious. Then came Las Vegas, the night of September 7th. Earlier that evening, Tupac and members of his entourage became involved in a confrontation at the MGM Grand with Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, a member of the Southside Compton Crips. Anderson was the nephew of Don Kefidi Davis. According to prosecutors, that confrontation became the motive for what happened later that night. After leaving the MGM Grand, Tupac and Knight traveled through Las Vegas. Then, near the Las Vegas Strip, another vehicle pulled alongside them. Gunfire erupted. Tupac was struck. He was taken to the hospital, and for 6 days, fans around the world waited for good news. But on September 13, 1996, the news came. Tupac Shakur had died. And then, nothing. There was no immediate arrest, no courtroom, no conviction, and for years, the case remained unresolved. Anderson became one of the people suspected of involvement, but he was never charged in Tupac's killing. He died in an unrelated shooting in 1998, and the other men believed to have been in the vehicle that night also eventually died. The case appeared destined to remain one of hip-hop's greatest mysteries until one man started talking. Don Kefidi Davis had been around the event that night. Over the years, he made public statements about what happened. He later discussed the incident in his memoir. Those statements would eventually become central to the investigation. Prosecutors now allege that Davis helped orchestrate the attack. They say he was the decision maker who organized the retaliation and supplied the firearms. But there is an important distinction. Prosecutors are not accusing Davis of personally firing the shots. Davis had pleaded not guilty and disputes the prosecution's interpretation of his past statements. 27 years later, for almost 3 decades, Tupac's murder remained unresolved. Then in 2023, everything changed. Las Vegas police arrested Don Davis. After 27 years, someone was finally facing a murder charge connected to Tupac Shakur's death. The arrest reignited global interest in the case, and in 2026, the case finally reached trial. August 10, 2026, jury selection began in Las Vegas in the murder trial of Don Kefedi Davis. About 75 prospective jurors are being screened, and trial is expected to last several weeks. Prosecutors will attempt to convince the jury that Davis played a central role in orchestrating the attack. His defense will challenge the case, and after nearly 30 years, the evidence surrounding Tupac's death is finally being tested before a jury. But there is something important to remember. A charge is not a conviction. Davis is presumed innocent unless prosecutors prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt. The question that refuses to die here is, who planned the attack? Who carried it out? And what exactly happened during those final hours of Tupac's life? For decades, those questions existed in interviews, books, documentaries, and fan theories. Now, they are being examined in court. But Tupac Shakur's story didn't end in Las Vegas. Tupac died at 25, yes, but his influence never died with him. His music continued to reach new generations. His films remained part of popular culture. His words continued to be quoted, and his name became larger than the man himself. He had spent his short life documenting struggles, ambition, anger, love, and survival. Then his life became one of the greatest unsolved stories he could never tell. September 7th, 1996, a night that began with boxing, ending with a shooting. 6 days later, Tupac Shakur was gone. 27 years later, an arrest was made, and nearly 30 years after the death, the case finally entered a courtroom. The world may never get back the 25-year-old Tupac, but now, for the first time, a jury will decide what happened behind one of the most enduring mysteries in hip-hop's history. For more explainers like this, follow Daily Reports Nigeria across all our social media platforms, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I am Juliet Amaka. Thank you for watching.